Kim, I want to start at the beginning, back in Saskatoon, back before you were acting professionally, before you went to the University of Saskatchewan. Acting wasn't necessarily on your radar. What was Kim Coates like back then?
Yeah, acting, I didn't even know what the word meant, let alone stumbling into it the way I did. Kim Coates was, he was a hockey player, he was a football player, he loved sports. I just couldn't be outside enough.
Yeah.
Two brothers that are younger than me, who I love. We used to smack each other around until I was about 16, and they were 14 and a half. They're twins until we said no more punches in the face because it was starting to hurt too much, especially for them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, just a total sports geek. And then I did a couple of speaking engagements in high school.
Like public speaking kind of thing?
Yeah. So I knew I had a maybe... persuasion to maybe do something like that, but still not acting. Acting was a complete fate fluke. Unbelievable. Took an elective class in my first year university, just acting just to meet girls, really.
But do you remember that moment where you were like, okay, I'm here to meet girls, but I kind of like this. Like this, I think I might be able to do this.
I do.
Yeah?
I really do. It was at the end of the first year. My first play was Romeo and Juliet. I played Balthazar. I had tights.
Tights?
Yeah, man. And I look good.
You weren't a tights guy, though, before
No,
this.
I refused. We had a movement class, and Rachel Neville, beautiful Rachel Neville, she's a big agent here in Toronto now, John Neville's daughter. She was stunning, and she was so talented as our movement coach.
Yeah.
And she said, okay, so everyone's going to bring tights. And I went, no, not doing it. She said, no, I said, I'm just not doing it. I'll wear shorts, but I can't. So she kind of boycotted me, put me at the back, put the dunce hat on for a while, and then Romeo and Juliet came my way, and I put those babies on like everybody else, and the rest is history. Yeah.
Because you end up looking like, it's kind of like not wearing a Halloween costume. You know what I mean? Like you think you're going to look cool. Like you think you're going to be I'm going to be the guy who doesn't show up with the Halloween costume.
Right.
But you end up...
But we all looked the same. You know what I mean? Like we all had.
But when you're wearing shorts.
Oh, in the movement class.
Yeah, when you're wearing shorts and you're not in the tights, you think you're going to look cool. You're not. Yeah,
and everyone looked at me like, you're the idiot. You're the guy who's afraid of tights. Get over yourself right now.
So then you spend years in the Canadian theater world.
I did.
Yeah.
I got my degree at the U of S, and I majored in drama in my third year. I went from history to drama. I was going to be a history teacher. That's what I wanted to do until I found my path in life, which is acting. And
were your old buddies cool? Like your old sports buddies, did they get it?
Yeah, they did. I mean, when I came back from the Edinburgh Drama Festival at the end of the third year, I knew I needed to be a professional actor then. We won a Fringe First for a play called Creeps, David Freeman, about cerebral palsy, wheelchair in a washroom. It was an incredibly award-winning play, and we won a Fringe First over there. And I came back, and I remember saying to all my buddies in Saskatoon, and we're still really tight, all together, when we were all together, a few jokes were cracked, and well, let's see if it works out. But one-on-one, they all went, yeah, man, you have to. You've got this thing going on. You need to do this. So,
and then you end up being the youngest Macbeth in professional theater history in this country. Is that right?
I don't think that, but I certainly was the youngest at Stratford.
And the youngest at Stratford.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a role that typically, when you say it's the youngest, I mean, it's a real feather in your cap that you did it, but that role is also in many ways written for someone older. Like,
well, actually younger. Did you say old? I think
it's for someone younger?
Well, I just mean that if you really look at the history books, right, back then in the dark Middle Ages when Macbeth really, men never lived past 35, 38.
Right,
so what I mean is you're right. It's written for older guys perhaps, but
the person you're depicting.
Yeah, but to play, and Marcia Cash, who was my Lady Macbeth, she was amazing, and she was my age, mid to late 20s. And Tom Kerr and John Neville directed the production, and we got some amazing reviews. We got some horrible reviews, but they were so fascinated by the youth and the vim and the vigor that we all had. And we had a very sparse stage. And when the lady and I met after the witches give their prophecy to me, and I would come and meet her, I mean, my tongue was so far down her throat, and we were sprawled on that floor, that marble floor, with just legs. I mean, it was the audience was like, right? They felt it, so it was on.
That's not something you see in older depictions of Macbeth, you might say.
I don't think so.
No.
So it was special.
Yeah.
It was really great that they allowed me to do that, and then it all just sort of blossomed, continued from there.
But that's one big role earlier in your career. A storied role, a legendary role in theater, and then you do
Thanks.
another one. Then you do Stanley Kowalski
Yeah.
from Streetcar Named Desire.
Yeah, right on Broadway.
Wow, how does that happen?
It was
man?
great, right? I mean, I do Streetcar, and then I did Lie of the Mind with the late Larry Lillo and the late Susan Wright, Hardy T. Lynham. I mean, such an incredible cast here in Toronto, and New York came a-calling right away. I go down to New York, and the first thing I got this really beautiful agent down there with Gail Abrams up here in Toronto. I had one now in the States, and I met Paul Libben, who was producing Streetcar, at Circle in the Square Theater, and yeah, man, it was pretty great. I ran for 5 months, and Aidan Quinn opened the show. He lasted about a month, and then he split, and I took over for him, and it's just to be on Broadway, screaming Stella. I think, Marlon did it first. Obviously, we all know that.
Yeah.
And I think someone told me Aiden was the 7th or 8th, so that would make me the 8th or the 9th ever on Broadway. So pretty cool. Yeah.
What's the best thing about being on Broadway? What's the best thing about acting on Broadway?
It's New York. It's the lights. It's the cabs. It's the people. They dress up. They take it seriously. They love their musicals. They love their theater. And the reviews are so unfortunately pivotal to a show.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of the last vestige of the review.
Yeah. And it's still kind of like that way, certainly for dramas in New York.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's like that here in Toronto too. But we got reviewed twice. Obviously, Aidan and Blythe Danner did the original with Frances McDormand, and then I took over with a complete new cast, and we ran for 5 more months, and the reviews were awesome. And I went right from Broadway to kind of Hollywood.
I mean, that's the thing, is that you go from playing Macbeth, and then you're Stanley in A Streetcar Named Desire, and then your first TV role that we could find was in a Miami Vice episode called Viking Bikers from Hell.
Baby, Tom, give it up. Give it up.
Absolutely.
You knew it. You did your research, son.
So you have all this great success in theater. When you transfer to do Miami, make you sound like you got transferred.
Take a bus transfer down to Miami.
Yeah. So you get to do this role in Miami Vice on, again, Viking Bikers from Hell. Did it feel like you were starting all over again?
Not really. Bonnie Timmerman cast me, and I got my SAG card, and I got a visa and a lawyer because I'm Canadian proud, and I didn't have my green card or anything. But for me, when I got cast in that, I ended up, once I paid for my lawyer and joining SAG and those things, I made like $18.67 or something.
Oh.
And my dad always said, that's the greatest $18 you've ever made. So
Well, why is that?
just because I paid for a visa, I paid for a lawyer,
Right.
I joined SAG,
Right.
So even though I made nice little dough for you make so much more money on TV, as you know, it was the beginning of my American television career in a way, and then movies came right after that. So yeah, it was all meant to be.
We're looking into your past credits. I just love the names of your characters: Drifter,
Yeah,
Trigger,
yeah,
Uncle Bruno.
sure.
My favorite, Carjacker.
Was that in Bad Boys? I wonder if that was Bad Boys 2, Carjacker.
That was Bad Boys 2, Carjacker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Bay, I've done 4 movies with him, I think.
And did you feel a bit typecast? Did you feel like you were only being offered bad guys?
I get asked that question, but Robert De Niro gets asked that question, so I'm in good company. And I remember, I think you've maybe heard the story, but Gary Oldman and I, when I was on Broadway, I met
don't know
Gary.
the story, yeah.
And he was becoming a movie star, right, with those incredible early performances of his. And I asked him that question about, because he was always playing sort of this twisted,
Yeah.
And he said, I'll give good creep. I know I give good creep. And so I kind of remembered that. And you know what? Some of the best written parts are these character parts that I seem to be getting offered. And I think it's tough to play a leading man. I've said that before too. And so, no, I'm not typecast. I've never thought that. I love changing it up. Tig Traeger on Sons of Anarchy, which I'm sure we might talk about a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, that was a guy for 7 years that continued to evolve, but his look or who that guy was, Tig Traeger. I just love changing it. I love getting fat and skinny and accents and
Yeah.
posture, and I'm a very internal actor, so it's fun to do.
I should say for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, Sons of Anarchy tells the story of an outlaw California motorcycle club, the exterior and interior conflicts the members face. Kurt Sutter, the creator of the show, has seen it as the story of Hamlet, and you coming with the Shakespearean background, Shakespeare really important to you. That must have been a real draw.
It was a real draw. I'm not sure.
Do you see it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. But we didn't really know it early. We just got the pilot, and we read the pilot, and we talked about me playing Tig and what that would be if I would say yes. And I was concerned. I didn't want to be just a sociopath. I passed before I said yes, and he convinced me to stay because of the arc that Tig would become and the brotherhood and the humor and the pathos and the crying. And yeah, he's tough and he's twisted and it's a bit scary at times, but he really did go full circle, my character. So
What made you want to pass?
because what he showed me
Yeah.
was just one scene that was just so violent. And I'd never done a regular in a television series before.
Right.
I'd never really wanted to. This was my first, okay, it's time to do something like this. I love motorcycles, been riding my whole life. And so when he showed me that one scene, when you read a movie, right? Power, it's in front of you. You read the whole thing. You don't know how you're going to do it yet, but they're right. But a television series for 7 years, if it's a success, I didn't want to do something that I was going to regret because this guy was just one note or an evil note or a bad note. So he convinced me to come along for the ride, and I'm really glad I did.
Kim Coates, your character in Sons of Anarchy is a really nuanced character, and you've had to go through a lot of intensely emotional moments. The brutal death of your daughter, toying with some sexual deviations, engaging in a heartfelt romantic relationship with a transgender woman. You know, do you look back at those moments in pre-university, sports-loving Kim Coates and wonder how you got here?
That's a great question, man. I think I do, and I think I have, but I've been so incredibly busy and lucky to be so busy. I don't have a chance to reflect much these days, but I'm just so blessed. And yeah, man, what a crazy life it's been. And and that guy Tig Traeger and the stuff that Kurt gave me to do, which you just mentioned a few highlights. Come on, I mean, a transgender man, what a love story. I mean, for the world to see. Redneck, liberal, conservative, down the line, other side of the tracks, gay, straight, they all went. That was unbelievable. Walton Goggins, what she did, but it was an incredible, heart-wrenching story between the two of us, and the whole world saw it, and it was awesome.
Well, and it sounds more interesting than Carjacker and Bruno, and you know what I mean. It sounds like these are like you said, really nuanced characters.
Yeah. It really was. And I think Kurt stuck to his guns with that, as you just said, that Shakespearean, come on, no one did it better than William, right? No one.
Yeah.
I mean, Shakespeare had those emotions, the human condition, down pat.
Yeah.
And we cry and we laugh and we scream and we get horrified and scared. And Sutter had elements of that throughout the entire 7 years.
You've been living in L.A. now, but you still go back to Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan, do you still watch the CFL?
You said it correctly, Mr. Newfoundland. Yes,
yeah,
you did.
And you got Newfoundland right, too, not a Newfoundland.
Nah, Newfoundland.
Are you? Do you watch the CFL?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you still
had money on Ottawa.
Is that hard to do? I know, like when I moved here, it was a bit of a challenge. I kept my Newfoundland. Like moving to Toronto from Newfoundland is not unlike moving to LA from Saskatchewan. Like you,
is it really?
Yeah, because Did
you feel that really?
Yeah,
it was that much. Like it was bigger. Well,
I felt like I was from a country. I didn't feel like I was from a province. You know what I mean? Like I felt like because Newfoundland was its own country until '49. When I moved up here, I felt
they were the last ones to join, weren't they?
We were the last province to join. Yeah.
So held out to the very end, baby.
We
Way
did.
to go.
Yeah. That's it. We had until we had the leverage worked out. I keep the license. I kept my driver's license, a Newfoundland license, until it expired. I still have a Newfoundland phone number. Like
I love that.
Was that a challenge? Is that a challenge for you to keep your connection to Saskatchewan, even though you get kind of wrapped up in LA?
No, it's easy. It's my dad's gone now. He's the greatest man in the world. My mom's just a little rock star. She's 85, 86 now. She makes the greatest cinnamon buns in the world, and she's proud of it, and she's a baker and a cook, and people go to my house all the time, and my brothers are still there, and some of my best mates are still there. So Canada's my home. It always will be.
And you don't just go home to visit. You also actively still participate in the Canadian film industry. Why is that so important to you?
I don't even think about it. It's where it all began for me.
A lot of people wouldn't necessarily want to feel that way about going back to where they came from or repaying where they came from. A lot of Canadian actors go to LA and they stay there. You know?
Well, maybe, yeah, I'm sure. Not me. I always say this in all the interviews I give about young actors. I am so lucky to have worked so hard to be in a position of going where the best work is, and I really don't care if it's in Thunder Bay or New York. I will go where the best work is, the best script, the best people, and I'm doing that now, and I have been for a while. And I love coming home, and I think Canada has some of the best crews ever in the world. We're certainly the nicest people in the world. That's just a given. And with the political climate that's going on down there now in America, I actually can't even talk about it, so I'm not going to. But I love coming home, and I know America is the biggest game in town. LA and New York is the biggest game in town, and I'm a citizen down there now, proud. Canada first always, but it's a beautiful thing to be able to go from country to country and not get stopped at the border and just take pictures with all the border crossing dudes who know my work. And welcome home, welcome home, welcome home.
Yeah.
But I love coming back to Canada because some of the best work is still being done here.
And on January 28th, you'll be receiving the 2017 ACTRA National Award of Excellence, and talking about the Alliance of Canadian Cinema, television, radio artists. What does that mean to you to get that award, man?
Is that what I'm getting? No,
Yeah. I thought it was an Oscar. I thought it was a Lifetime Achievement
I thought
Oscar.
it was for my hockey skill. No,
Yeah.
It's an honor. It's flat out. It's just an honor. When Fern Downey got in touch with my people, and I was on location, and they said they'd like to give me this honor for, I guess, my work and my charity and us being good Canadian boys. It's an honor. It's a flat out honor, and I don't care where I'm filming in January. I will be there for that weekend or that Thursday or Saturday, whatever it is, and
Because it's going to be cold.
it's in LA.
Okay, good.
It's in LA,
Good,
so you can breathe.
good,
It's in LA.
good.
So it's an honor, man. I'm just really thrilled, and everybody's been so kind and giving it up and letting me know how proud they are of me and I am of them, and it's just an honor.
Kim Coates, thanks for coming in today, man.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it.